What's going on, guys? I am very excited to announce that Philly Sports Trips is now the official travel partner of the You Know Ball podcast. The biggest reason why I've partnered with Philly Sports Trips is really simple. I give them my money. I have a mini vacation that involves the Sixers, Eagles, and Phillies, and I don't have to lift a finger to plan anything. I can party as light as I want or as hard as I want, and Philly Sports Trips takes care of everything that I hate. The planning, the organizing, researching where to go, and I get a 5-star hotel, non-crazy flight schedules, and tailgates that have unbelievable food and booze, and most importantly, it's a douchebag-free zone. These are just some of the many reasons that I am excited to partner with Philly Sports Trips. I can't wait to go on a Sixers trip next season, and Uniball is absolutely going on the road to at least one Eagles game. So let me know which Eagles game you would want to go to, and I would love to do a huge Uniball road trip. Out of all the cities, I'm thinking New York or Chicago, but I want to know what you guys think as well. So tweet at me at TrillBroDude, DM me, comment on the YouTube, and let me know which Eagles game you guys think we should go as a group this season. Phillies and Eagles trips are booking right now. So head over to phillysportstrips.com and let them know that You Know Ball sent you for two very important reasons. Not only does it help fund the podcast, but we'll have VIP events and goodies specifically just for You Know Ball listeners. phillysportstrips.com, premium travel for every Philly sports fan, and a proud sponsor of the You Know Ball podcast. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the You Know Ball podcast. I am your host, Trill Bro Dude, and after over a year, his absence was felt by many that listen to this podcast, but he is finally back. Mr. TKR, the Kevin Rice. What's going on, Kevin?
Hi, Trill. Thanks for being my premiere back into the public space.
Had to put you on blast here and bring you back for the draft pod. Obviously, it's draft week, but we did have a massive slop drop today from Sham Charania. Mr. 20 hours of screen time a day dropped a bomb, and it was a big one. So Kyrie Irving, I didn't have you on.
I thought you were talking about the other one. I forgot. I thought you were talking about PJ.
Yes, PJ Tucker.
It is a big one.
PJ Tucker opting out. 37-year-old PJ Tucker opting out of his $7.5 million contract.
Yes,
and
the other one.
shock the NBA world, folks.
Yeah.
So Kyrie Irving is potentially moving on from the Brooklyn Nets, which is not really a surprise to me at all. I had been hearing things. I think I talked about it on a podcast a month ago that I had heard that Kyrie and Katie weren't talking, and now we're getting all of these rumors coming out, and finally Shams kind of confirmed it today that the Knicks or the Lakers could be the team that Kyrie could leave to go to. So you wanna hit us with your conspiracy theory that you dropped on me about a month ago at this point?
Yeah, almost a month ago. It was mainly Ty Dalbert, our good friend Ty Dalbert's conspiracy that then we talked out and got further into it. So mid-May, when it was like Kyrie, Katie aren't talking anymore, Ty just goes, Katie's a Sixer, easily. And then he started talking it out of the biggest point here being that Embiid is horrible, jack dog shit at tampering. So they needed to bring in Harden to start tampering. Because Embiid, I don't know what Embiid wanted. Embiid couldn't get Justin Anderson back here. So, like,
true.
Either he's not interested or he just does not want to do it. So Embiid's horrible at tampering. Morey and Harden, great at it, fantastic at it, obviously. So they can bring Katie in. So you have the way in. You just needed the way to get Katie out. Kyrie not talking to him. Katie knows he's not the guy anymore. He's getting older. He got swept by the Celtics through whatever, but he's still Kevin Durant. He can't do it with a guard. He can't do it with two guards. He could do it with a guard and a center. So there's your enticement to get KD here. He owns part of the Philadelphia Union. Why not be closer to your team, your town? Shout out my roommate, Addison Hunsker, your team, your town, Philadelphia Union out in Chester County. Same difference. And the last kicker isn't KD a crypto guy? Or at least
yeah, I mean, I know that he invests in things, so I'm assuming, sure, why not?
So him and Daryl can talk shop, wherever they want to. But
wow.
I mean, all things point to KD being a Sixer in my mind.
You messaged me this like a month ago, and I was like, no, you're not coming on the podcast and saying that. And now we have at least some breadcrumbs that could
Well, he was
potentially
also
lead to.
people were talking about him wanting to be a Raptor because that was Vince Carter was his favorite growing up. But I forget who said it. And I wish I forget.
Raptors fans are legitimately
Maybe
psychotic.
they're gaslighting me into thinking that's what was real. But
We're
someone said
saying
that
this all with a sense of irony. They have zero sense of irony when they say these things.
Well, someone also said that Katie's way too online to go to the Raptors because he definitely sees Raptors Twitter. Like he knows what's going on.
It's
He
true.
knows
It's
they're
true. Yeah.
psycho. So, I mean, the only other team left is the Sixers, really.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about
go
it,
back west. He won't. Steph better, sadly. He won't go back west to face Steph.
100%. No.
Stay in the East. He won't go to Boston. He won't do that. I hope.
No. The only team that would be really scary and shitty would be if he went to Miami.
Yeah, the Heat.
Yeah.
Well, then,
or honestly,
if KD goes to the Heat, then Jimmy's a Sixer.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like the Nets aren't going to move on from Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant extended thinking that James Harden and Kyrie Irving were going to extend when he extended with the Brooklyn Nets last year. And there was an article that came out in The Athletic like just before the season when there were whispers about Harden. Like it was when KD extended. And someone brought up this article today, and it was James Harden is not going to extend, and he's gonna get out of Brooklyn. Kyrie Irving will be shortly following after that, and Kevin Durant shortly following after that. I was like, holy fucking shit. I mean, at this point, like the whole Kyrie thing, first off, it's literally the Lindsay and Tobias Funke meme that I posted on Twitter after oh yeah, no, it never works. These people somehow delude themselves into thinking that signing Kyrie Irving could potentially work. Like if you're the Lakers and the Knicks, okay, so the Knicks, no, don't do it. Like I understand you want to be brought back to relevance. I understand that like you're trying to get stars in the building and back to the Garden, and don't go after Kyrie. Like you have something like I don't think that any of their young guys are like amazing, but at least like you're building something.
I like RJ. I like RJ.
Sure.
And Mitrov's good.
Yeah, I think they have a bunch of fine young players. I don't think any of them are like future superstars, but I think they're all like solid to good. And then you have the 11th pick in this draft. You have all this financial flexibility, throwing it out the window to bring in fucking Kyrie Irving, who is now on his third team that he could potentially destroy in like 6 years. Like if I'm the Knicks, I'm staying way, way far away from that. The Lakers, on the other hand,
that's such a Lakers thing.
That is such a Lakers thing for multiple reasons. One, you have the narrative of LeBron and Kyrie needing Kyrie and Kyrie needing LeBron and all that. And apparently he has come out and said, like, you know, like, I wish things ended differently in Cleveland. Had I known what I known, me and LeBron have a great relationship now and all this shit. And on top of that, I do think the fact that the Lakers are stuck with the Russell Westbrook thing. Even when Russell Westbrook's contract expires after this season, they don't want to give up picks to get off of it because they're just being stubborn about it. And they are stuck because even if, and I know I've said this 100 times about the Lakers before, and they always seem to fucking find their way out of it. The Heat and the Lakers always just.
I wonder how LeBron and Rich Paul find their way out of it.
I wonder how the Lakers as a organization find their way. They're in Los Angeles. They have history, all that shit. So, but my whole point on this is like, with the Russ stuff, like even when Russ leaves, they're not going to have a route to cap space because LeBron's going to make so much money and Anthony Davis is going to make so much money that like, unless they cut literally everyone else on the team, and like stars don't reach free agency anymore. Like none of the stars that we thought were going to be free agents this summer are going to be free agents. Levine's going back, Beal's going back. Like it is now to the point where getting a guy like Kyrie, I think I said this before, like the Lakers are the only option that makes sense. And it's probably, there's no way that KD would ever allow Russ to go to Brooklyn if he's staying there, though. I just can't picture that.
No, I don't think so. That would be. So what I just thought of is if Kyrie goes to LA, or if he goes to LA, before that, he's kind of the greatest Sixer ever. He like sabotaged Boston when it looked like Boston was going to be insane. He sabotaged the Nets, who arguably had the greatest offense of all time. The Sixers didn't capitalize at all, but He's the greatest Sixer. He's the greatest Raptor. The greatest Heat ever.
He
So now he
contributed.
can go be
Bucks
the greatest
legend.
Spur. I don't know.
Kyrie Irving, Bucks legend, helped them get to
Yeah.
sprains his ankle, helps them win their first title in forever. I mean, like, I look at it like it's the Lakers or no one, because there's no other team that is psychotic enough to look at Kyrie Irving and go, yeah, we could fix him.
Yeah, because none of the Thunder aren't going to do it, even with
No.
like insane picks, because they're smarter than that, I think, and they have Shea.
The Pistons, the
Shea
Magic.
Better is going to be the next one. The Pistons might be dumb enough, but I hope
Also,
they're not.
Kyrie has to want to go there, and that's why New York. That's why New York and LA are the two markets that he's looking at right now. Because the only time he's ever had a choice where he went, he chose New York. So he's going to either go to the Knicks, the Clippers, or the Lakers. And I think the Clippers are like they have all these wings. They're just an entire team of wings, Reggie Jackson and Zubac and Hartenstein. Yeah. And then the rest of their team is just 2, 3s, and 4s that are all switchable, that can shoot, pass. They're good players. They're building something there. They have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. They're not going to trade for him. Even Steve Ballmer, who's like the fucking has movie villain money, like, is not going to fucking go out there and get Kyrie. So it really just comes down to, is LeBron desperate enough? Does Steph winning a 4th title make LeBron desperate enough to just be like, yeah, no, we have to get Kyrie. This is our, and like from a talent standpoint, of course, but how many times are we going to do this with Kyrie and the super teams?
I don't like, it has to be the last go around. And if he goes to LA and fails with LeBron after, like, do you remember the story of when Kyrie was on Cleveland, forced his way out to get to Boston? He was filming Uncle Drew. And he got traded during filming, and everyone was like, Kyrie, that's like the happiest I've ever seen him. He was dancing around like the set and everything to get out of Cleveland to go to Boston. And then Boston didn't work. Brooklyn didn't work. Right. He goes back to like LeBron and LA. That would be such a story arc for him, I think. But someone asked when the Ben stuff was happening, would you rather have Harden or Kyrie? And like basketball wise, age wise, like in a vacuum, it's Kyrie. But not outside the vacuum where it's just sort of, and I'll never know what's going on inside guys' heads. I don't like to judge them or anything, but like, you never know with Kyrie, like what's going to happen if he's going to not play, if there's going to be a monkeypox vaccine that he won't take. You know? Is he going to retire? Like that was as much as people hate on Harden, there's no one out there that's like, yeah, Harden's just going to retire. There's a possibility when you get this guy, he's going to just retire in a few months. Yeah. Like Kyrie is the only player in the NBA where if you acquire him, he might just be like, you know what, I'm good. I'm actually Ben Simmons, but also Kyrie. It's Ben and Kyrie. The Nets somehow collected both of them. But you know, I do think it is kind of poetic if Kyrie does end up leaving the Nets, that we had to hear about this perfect situation for Ben Simmons for so many months now, about how he wasn't going to have to worry about scoring. He was going to have 2 of the best scorers of all time, all this shooting around him, and he would just be able to focus on doing what he does best. And now it's Claxton better.
And now he's the second guy there. Yeah. Like, unless they figure out a way to get rid of Kyrie and get another star in there, Ben's the second guy, and we've seen what happens when Ben's the second guy. And by the way, Kevin Durant is not peak Kevin Durant anymore. So
no.
Best of luck is all I'm going to say there. Best of luck to the Brooklyn Nets.
I really hope nothing goes wrong with the Brooklyn Nets situation. No, it'd be horrible. Never want to see that.
It'd be absolutely horrible if the Nets just, went under as a franchise. And I mean, I think it's kind of just it's just kind of poetic, because by the way, I never bought that whole, like, they were building a culture with D'Angelo Russell and Karis LeVert, and then I'm like, that team sucked. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like
they had one like fiery win in Philly in the playoffs, and then it was like they stink.
Oh no, they're not good at all. You shouldn't worry about that at all. What you built that culture to get the guys like KD and Kyrie. I totally understand that element of it, but as it is just funny to see the gentrification franchise, the team that was literally built on gentrification and just moving into Brooklyn unwanted is now having all of this backfire on them.
And
yeah, for the second time in a decade, they've traded away all of their picks. Houston is looking really fucking smart right now. The first episode of my podcast is going to age horribly because on the first episode, I was just like, what the fuck are the Rockets doing? Well, turns out betting
the only thing they did wrong was gave up Jared Allen for nothing.
Right, of course.
But
yeah, that was stupid.
Yeah.
I think I did mention that on the podcast too. I was like, is it Jared Allen really good? Like, why did they just not want to keep him? But yeah, that part aside, they were smart enough to be like, oh, right, Kyrie Irving just destroys teams within 2 years. We can just and we know James isn't gonna stick around. He's leaving here right now when things went bad. So shout out to them for that. Speaking of the former Houston Rockets, former Harden Morey guys, PJ Tucker opted out. The big news that we mentioned earlier, PJ Tucker opts out of his $7.5 million contract. And why this is important to the Sixers is because they're speaking of a trail of breadcrumbs. Mm-hmm. Joel Embiid mentions PJ Tucker's toughness at the press conference after they lose game 6. He talks about his mental toughness, his physical toughness.
Dancing around just calling him a dog.
Basically.
And then he wants it more.
Yes, exactly. Because he knows ball.
Wrong side.
Keith Pompey comes out and mentions PJ Tucker as a potential target in free agency. And I'm like, maybe there's something here. He opts out today. They basically come out and say, he was going to opt out anyway because he can get a raise from Miami for next year. At worst case scenario for him, he could get an $8.5 million contract instead of a $7.5 million contract. Okay, but why does this concern the Sixers? So we learned that James Harden last week, we learned he's going to opt in, which means that the Sixers do not have a clear route to the full MLE, which would probably be what they would need, that $10 million to get PJ Tucker to come to Philly to potentially be the starting 3 or 4 or however they would go about that. So
or Elton wants him running the point.
Of course. I mean, honestly, Elton's dreams might come true. Tobias might slide back down to the 3. Although he might have to cut Maxey.
Yeah, he's going to cut Maxey. He needs a big guard. They're going to draft Roddy or Liddell and just start him at point guard.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Well, we're not even joking about that.
Yeah,
that would be absolutely.
I was just thinking of big boys.
Kenneth Lofton Jr. is the new starting point guard for the Sixers next year.
I have a good one. Ben Simmons starting point guard for the Philadelphia.
Oh, that would be brilliant. Yeah, I heard he's available.
Make that happen. Yeah.
So they might get the idea behind them getting PJ Tucker in order to get to that number, to get to that MLE number that they could afford it. They would basically have to go away from the idea that they had of taking the 23rd pick and including it with Danny Green in a trade because they would have to get back too much salary in that circumstance. So they'd have to cut Danny Green because he has a non-guaranteed contract next year. And then they would have to salary dump Furkan Korkmaz to basically any team that would take him for free. A team with cap space or a team like the Indiana Pacers that were interested in him and might be moving Brogdon and Turner. And then from there, if they shed all of that salary, they should be able to make some other moves and get to the point where they can sign PJ Tucker to the MLE. My big fear with this is that they're going to do this, and then PJ Tucker is going to come here and be completely cooked.
Watch.
Because he's not going to have the HGH from Pat Riley that he had this year to have a little bit of an offensive revitalization in his game. And
he's going to have Doc Rivers coaching him.
He'll be 37 years old next year, going on 38. In the playoffs, he will be 38 years old. And I watched Chris Paul's soul die when he turned 38 years old in the playoffs. And other than that, I can't think of a single player since maybe Tim Duncan that played at deep into the playoffs at 38 years old. LeBron's 37 right now.
Yeah.
So,
and just Tim Duncan,
do you have any interest in PJ Tucker, or are you just you do? You still do?
I do. Not for the money, but if the money was different, I'd have more of an interest. But just to have that spirit on the bench and because the Sixers have no dogs. They have like no one who just besides like Maxey sort of, but no one who will like get after the other team. George Niang talks a lot of shit, but like it's George Niang, he could be your seventh or eighth guy, but not your sixth man. But besides Niang, they don't really have anyone who will just like go at someone, which is something I miss.
Yeah.
You had the Mike Scott year where that was awesome. Yeah, Justin Anderson. Covington would go at people every once in a while. Dario would unintentionally score when he wasn't supposed to. So there's not that like self-made underdog mentality the Sixers have that they sort of need, I feel like. They have the best player in the world.
He would definitely bring an element of toughness for sure. And I think that does matter somewhat, but I also think that you're pushing a little bit. I've never been the biggest PJ Tucker guy. I do think that he would be a nice Danny Green replacement for sure. Yeah. Someone who can play good defense, who can hit corner threes, who honestly probably even at his age definitely has more off the dribble juice than Danny does. I mean, Danny's just completely useless when he puts the ball on the floor. And, you know, PJ, he brought the finger roll game back this year. He was really good from the mid range because of that. He was playmaking off the short roll. He definitely expanded to his offensive game, which if I felt like he could come here and for at least 1 year could be healthy and not washed, he would be kind of an ideal fit.
Yeah. Like I thought the year the Bucks got him, that was like the PJ Tucker you would have wanted to take a swing on like this, but I don't know about 37, 38-year-old PJ Tucker. And it worked out for the Bucks, obviously. But.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, honestly, it worked out for the Heat too. The Heat got to the conference finals. Like, all things considered, PJ Tucker he fits with a lot of good teams.
Yeah.
He has now been on four or five conference finalists, one finals team, won the finals. Like he has been an important part of a lot of good teams, and I don't want to undersell his value in that.
He'd also be the perfect replacement because Danny Green's also the only winner on the Sixers.
It's true.
So PJ being a winner would be a great kind of slide in for that.
Yeah, and also he wears really cool clothes. He can maybe teach Maxey how to become like a fashionista.
There you go.
Which would be really great for his brand. We could just take it up another level. Maybe make some like really cool stylized Maxey Better Sadly shirts and stuff. It'd be dope.
He could go from like cutie pie to like at 20. Is he 21 right now? 21-year-old cutie pie to like 23-year-old hot guy.
Yeah, exactly. He could level up. PJ Tucker teaching the Sixers young players how to win and also how to be hot.
Yeah, the sex appeal is just dropped with the Sixers.
Sexers would be back.
Sexers, well, I hope. That was a failure.
I'm talking myself back into PJ Tucker right now. But honestly, I do think that if PJ Tucker hits free agency and the Sixers make a move on draft night to move off of Furkan Korkmaz, then I think that it's kind of phoned in what's going to happen here. And also the bright side of that is like, who knows what Thybulle's value is? Maybe there's a team out there that's just like, yeah, we want Thybulle, and like we'll send back a player that makes a similar amount of money. We've talked about a few of them. PJ Washington, someone like that. Can we trick a team into taking Thybulle and getting back a legit like starter level guy? And if you were able to do that, then PJ Tucker, like you said, being like the 6th or 7th man. And then
you don't want to start PJ.
Yeah. He was starting for the Heat. I mean, and also I do just want to say, because the fact that they have 3 legit shot creators, and like honestly, Tobias, even like as an individual shot creator, like is, would to be the 4th best shot creator in the starting lineup, and then have PJ Tucker as like the 5th guy. I think that could totally work offensively. And I think defensively, if PJ isn't cooked next year, he could be that stopper guy that like you could put on the other team's best wing, which is something this team will desperately need
to at least slow them down, because he won't be lockdown PJ, but he'll at least like get into them. And
for sure,
I'm talking. I also in my time off the public space, I've transformed into my big board I did this year. I'm only doing eye tests. I'm a no more numbers guy.
No more analytics. Now,
No more
now,
numbers.
No, I'm with
Nothing
you.
to do with why I was off or anything. I was
I
just like,
literally,
I'm coming back. I just want to watch.
I literally am. I don't even look at analytics anymore. I only, except for when we do the trade machine thing, because it has the LeBron statistic in there, and I like to laugh at how bad certain players are. Like the last episode, Terrence Ross was a minus 4.5 on his LeBron, which was the lowest I've ever seen. But yeah, generally speaking, don't look at that. But from an eye test perspective, if PJ Tucker isn't washed, still one of the better wing defenders in the NBA at his age, will muck shit up. The big thing with him is like he defends Giannis really well. He defends Durant really well. Like there are guys that you could put him on and he could at least do a capable job. If he's not totally cooked. So
I have a I forget how much money Terrence Ross makes, but would you swap, because we know the Terrence Ross lore, would you swap Matisse for Terrence Ross?
No. I would rather have Matisse than Terrence Ross. I am very low on Thibault, as everyone knows, but I just think that Terrence Ross is completely terrible. I think he's one of the worst players in the NBA. I just think like for what the Sixers need, especially, like we need athletic wings that can defend and shoot and do. Yeah, Terrence Ross can't defend.
Wing.
Yeah, can't shoot.
No.
He's an overrated shooter, I should say. He has horrible shot selection. He can't really defend. He also makes like $12 million a year. Like I would be totally fine with keeping Thibault and playing him spot minutes as like the 8th or 9th man instead of going after a guy like Terrence Ross. But my whole point on this was like, if you bring in PJ, you get rid of Korkmaz, you bring in PJ, you can somehow turn Thibault into another rotation player that's like a legit contributor. I mean, Keith Pompey said in his article that they wanted an Andrew Wiggins level contributor. And I'm like, yeah, let's get that out of our brain because that's never, ever going to happen.
Sixers need Steph Curry, like a Steph Curry kind of guy.
Why don't we just trade Thibault for Jason Tatum? Actually, Jason Tatum was terrible in the finals, so never mind. His value is...
You'd rather have... No, his value's down. Just get some salary filler with Matisse, maybe throw Tobias in there.
No.
Tobias hasn't lost in the finals ever.
Exactly. I'm rolling with Toby, baby. He's a winner. He's a winner.
You hear that? What's his name? Brad Stevens. Forgot he existed for a little bit.
Yeah, he's... Oh, did you see Hustle?
My roommate literally just texted me asking if I want to watch it tonight.
Okay, so
I have not yet. No,
I'm not going to.
I'm going to turn a light on real quick.
I'm not going to ruin anything for you. Yeah. Turn your light on, dude. Don't worry about it. Yeah, we'll go to commercial right now.
I was trying to buy time. The sun set so quickly.
So
I know
you've not seen Hustle, but Brad Stevens.
Know, like what happens? Yeah,
Brad Stevens is the worst actor of all time. Like you will watch it and be like, you didn't want to take multiple takes on this one, Brad. It is the worst acting I've ever seen in my life, to the point where Doc's in it for like 5 seconds, and Doc's acting is like fucking prime Al Pacino compared to fucking how bad Brad Stevens is as an actor. It's truly a horrendous acting scene, a small scene in there, but I had to throw that in there.
Nice.
But
I saw a bunch of stuff about Ant just being like the best actor of all time.
Oh yeah.
Did you see there was the one about Did you see the one about him getting the dunk blocked? That has to be one of my favorite. Yeah, because I haven't seen it. There's a scene where Juancho has to, or what's his name,
Bo Cruz, dude, come on.
Bo Cruz has to block an Ant dunk, and Sandler said when they were filming it, Anthony Edwards was like, "No, you have to rewrite this. Like, I'm not getting my dunk blocked." And they like ended up doing it, and Juancho was trying to block it, and he was like, Ant was dunking the ball so hard, like I thought he was gonna break the ball. And he's like, Ant, you have to let me block you. And he's like, there's no way I'm letting that happen.
So was it included in the film? I can't even remember.
I don't know yet.
Oh yeah, you haven't seen it. Yeah, but yeah. I honestly can't think of, maybe I'm just misremembering off the top of my head, but I cannot remember. Maybe he literally forced them out of it. That's such an alpha move.
That's so cool.
These are the things that I didn't know about Anthony Edwards pre-draft that I wish I knew now, because I would have been so much higher on him he was one of my misses of guys I was like, don't really get it with him. Like I see the athleticism, but it doesn't really sound like he likes basketball all that much or care. Like he seems like he's just really talented. And now I hear about him and I'm like, oh, you're actually cool as shit.
Like
and
literally should be the face of the league in 3 years.
He's awesome. He rocks.
Perfect.
I totally love him. He had an interview through the cycle for Hustle where he talked about how like basically when he worked out for the Warriors, Steve Kerr was like, yeah, you need to just stop fucking around, dude. Like you need to take this shit seriously. And he's like, and from that point on, I took it really seriously. So Steve Kerr, I mean, at least the Warriors did the Timberwolves a favor in some way after taking Andrew Wiggins and giving them D'Angelo Russell and winning a title with him. It's the least they could do.
Yeah, they got him, Ant. I don't even know what we were talking about before that. I just love Ant. Talking about Ant.
Oh, he's the king. I love him. Yeah. He's the GOAT. All right, so last thing before we move on to draft stuff, Miles Bridges, max rumor. So basically, Miles Bridges wants a max from the Charlotte Hornets because it's the Charlotte Hornets who wants to live in Charlotte. I mean, he's like a cool rapper and like does. Like,
you're saying that?
Well, I think he's a bad rapper, but I think like he's objectively speaking like he wants to live a rapper lifestyle and like drink clean and post it on Instagram and stuff like he did the other day. And listen, play microwave beats and then rap really like
about
off key
the NBA.
on them. Yeah. In a really like, and so he basically wants a max, and Charlotte is probably only going to offer something in like the $20 to $25 million range, which I think is an appropriate number for a guy like Miles Bridges. Like, I think he's a good player. I don't think he's like a great player by any means. And you have to think about the fact that like, if you're Charlotte, who cares? You're Charlotte. Just give him the fucking money because you're Charlotte. But so there's two angles to this. One, why don't they just, I don't even know if it's legal. I haven't looked into it yet, but like, why don't they just do an Ayton for Bridges swap?
Ayton for Bridges. Would the Suns do that? I guess if they wanted to get value for Ayton. Like Miles took that pretty big step forward this year, but I think he's still just sort of a fine player. But I feel like he could trick a team if it's Charlotte to paying him into the max just because he had that sort of big leap. He's good friends with LaMelo. He has the brotherhood in Charlotte. Yeah, but Ayton for Bridges, I don't know. I don't know if the Suns would do that. I feel like the Suns
are cheap.
They'd have Mikal and Miles. Sure. Okay, they'd have Mikal and Miles.
That's what I'm saying. You got the Bridges brothers, Mikal and Miles, not actually related, but you could have, like, if your whole thing is you don't want to pay a center, you're going to have to pay someone. Like, you might as well just pay a hyper athletic wing and overpay him. And then you have, at least you can sell that to your fans. Like, who are they going to get? Like Clint Capella or Yusuf Nurkic? Like they're the guys that are being thrown out in trades for Ayton in a sign and trade is like, if I was a Suns fan, I would be really pissed. I would be like, why are we doing this? Like, I understand the theory behind not paying a center, but also, like, we just drafted this guy number 1 over Luka a few years ago, and now you want to get rid of him for Clint Capella, who, like, he's a similar type player, but is also, like, significantly older and has a bunch of injury problems. And, like, my whole thing on this is, like, there has to be some sort of way that the Suns can get back decent value, and maybe Miles Bridges where it's just, like, each team doesn't really value the other one. The biggest thing about this is that Ayton would have to want to go to Charlotte. And with Kenny Atkinson backing out from the job after Charlotte got cheap, basically, is what they've said. And the Warriors were like, we'll just pay you more money to do less things here. And he was like, that sounds good.
Win another championship? Why not?
Yeah, sure. It sounds great. And so my whole thing on this is like, there has to be some sort of move because, like, if Charlotte's going to cheap out on this and the Suns are going to cheap out on this, why don't they just switch the two guys? I just think it makes sense.
I could see it. I just don't know how well Miles would fare in Phoenix. I'm just trying to think of like a scenario where he is like maximized. Because if you have CP, and maybe I'm forgetting about someone, like who
CP, Booker, Bridges.
Bridges.
So you have both Bridges brothers starting, and then just random center. Who cares?
I guess so.
Just throw in a random center.
Yeah. Is JaVale back with them? I think that would work.
He is. Yeah, JaVale. And then you could still have Cam Johnson and Crowder and like all those guys coming off the bench. Like they'd be kind of a deep team. Like I don't hate the idea. I just don't think that it works in this world because Robert Sarver's really, really cheap. And obviously that's why this whole thing has just happened. But last thing, if the Hornets came to you and they said, we don't want to max Miles Bridges. We don't want to pay him this long-term money. That's their concern. It's not even necessarily that like we got to pay him $30 million and then it goes up from there. And by the end of the contract, it's a lot of money. But what if they're like, we just don't want to go 5 years out, max contract on a guy we don't think is a max contract player. What if they went to Daryl Morey and they said, Tobias has only got 2 years left. We want Thibault. We want the 23rd pick, and we want one of your other prospects. And we'll sign and trade you Miles Bridges. And you have to max Miles Bridges for 5 years.
Oof. I don't know if I would do that. Because you get off the Tobias, but if you have 2 years left of Tobias, I feel like you can trick the Kings or someone into getting a better haul. I think it would be an upgrade, but I don't think I would do it. I don't think
athletically, it would be a massive upgrade to go
they would at least have someone who can jump off the ground more than 30 inches.
Right. And I'm not even the biggest Miles Bridges fan, and I would not max him by any means. I don't think I would pay him more than $25 million unless I thought that he was going to be like one of those guys that like is like a Zach LaVine type who like by the time they're 25, they're getting better every single year. And like, yeah, he got better, but his shooting fell off a little bit this year.
Yeah.
And I think his defense has gotten better and all of that shit. But like my whole thing is like, if that were the offer, I mean, it might not be the worst idea in the world to just be like, fuck it. This is our going all in move, because at least athletically, you would then have two guys in Maxey and Bridges that you could put around Embiid and Harden that would literally just run around, fuck shit up, run out in transition, catch lobs, like do all the hustle shit that you're missing right now.
Yeah, I think I had a drafted tweet that I never tweeted of like the Sixers have. I'm going to be fat phobic. The Sixers are just too many fat guys. They need some fucking freaks in there just to like do. That's why I really like Tari. I know you're really high on him. Just to get someone that's just like a psycho, just in there, just to do anything, just to sort of have that like. Because I feel like who am I thinking of? Kind of like Wiggins, but sort of like Tatum just dives around on the floor. Grant Williams, like those kind of guys in the Celtics who just kind of do the little things to kind of just spark stuff. The Sixers don't have any of that.
I guess getting Miles Bridges though would kind of not really solve that, because he does feel like a guy who thinks he's like a superstar. Yeah.
So I don't know. Like literally all you have on like transition, like Thibault running in transition. I'm like, oh, this will be like a decent dunk, but like
maybe, or he'll forget how to play basketball halfway through.
Yeah, as long as you don't have to drill, he'll just run, just catch a lob. Like. They just lack that, and I'm speaking more in like terms of entertainment now. Like they just lack that sort of pizzazz. If you don't have Harden back at Harden, I mean they had like the MVP this year in Embiid, which is awesome. But like besides that, you don't really have that sort of like, what am I talking about? Maxey's awesome. I'm like talking myself backwards right now. Like they don't have any entertainment. I'm like, wait, they have Embiid and Maxey and Harden. They just, you know what I mean? They're lacking that like one or two guys who can just like be a like bounty hunter almost.
Well, yeah,
I don't think that's Bridges.
My whole thing has been like, I'm now like, when I thought about this for a little bit, like I was selling myself on like, he's really young and he's a wing and we need a wing and he's athletic and blah, blah. But I'm like, no, I'm not doing this again where I talk myself into like the quote unquote fourth star, especially one that's like a flawed player like Miles Bridges, where like, I would just rather go after the depth and like try to build a normal team around the three guys that we have and just build around their strengths and get the guys that do the things that you're talking about, which is like the role player things. They're going to hustle for rebounds. They're going to, like fucking get up and down the court. They're going to like do the things
they fucking get back on defense
Like,
once.
all we need, I'm literally screaming at my television, "Get back!" when they're like complaining to the refs or whatever it is. Like, we need like athletic dudes who can literally just fly around the court around them, but also guys like that will do the little things on the margins that like your stars aren't going to do.
I have one. Zaire Smith.
Okay. All right. On to the next topic. We will not be bringing up Zaire Smith on this podcast. I simply refuse.
I'm under contract. I had to plug him once.
All right, so he is playing in the basketball tournament this summer, so you'll be able to watch him.
You are going to talk about him.
That's right. Yeah, so you can check him out there. But we're going to talk about the NBA draft. So let's get into the draft. Obviously I've been going all in on the draft, and so recently I've been thinking about how things are going to shake out, because a few weeks ago we did the mock draft where we did what we would do. So basically, if we're picking for the teams, this is how we would do it. What me and you are going to do is we're going to go through every pick in the lottery, and we're going to pick what we think is going to happen with these picks. So we're going to talk about the teams, how they think about the draft, who they generally like, where they could go on the board, all that shit. Whether they're going to keep the pick, trade the pick, whatever it is. So before we get into that, how would you rank the top 4 prospects in this class?
I would put Paolo and Chet firmly in tier 1. I've been able to say this, actually. Anyone who thinks Chet is going to be bad is just a fucking idiot. He's very obviously going to be good. Anyone who's like he's going to be playing overseas in 2 years, like, who are you watching? This kid is like legit good. So Paolo and Chet, kind of interchangeable. I like Paolo more just aesthetically, but they're tier 1. I'd go Ivy third, I think.
Yeah.
And then Jabari, I'd say Jabari or Jalen Duren. But it's a Paolo, Chet, Ivy, and I'll say Jabari for shits and giggles.
Yeah, I have the same 4 in the same order. So we're in lockstep on that one. Awesome. I agree. I also think I talked about this on a podcast the other day. I feel like the Chet thing is like people are very obsessed with the ceiling and the idea of what Chet can be. Whereas I feel as though he's actually going to have a really safe floor. Like, he's like at worst, he's going to be a good role player.
That's at the very worst. Yeah. Like, I'm very high up. Like, it's also the new build of like, you have Chet, you have Mobley, and then Victor Wembanyama coming next season. That's like the new thing is just these sort of underweight, gigantic, really smart basketball players on both sides of the ball.
Skilled
like,
too,
skilled, smart. Like, I don't know how you would pass on that. Gain weight.
Yeah. I think that Chet's kind of a no-brainer. I've thought about putting Ivy too. I really like Ivy, like to the point where I think that of all the guys, if you're going to take an upside swing outside of like your top tier guys, I would definitely take that swing on Ivy more so than anyone else. I think that he has a decent chance to become like a really legitimately great NBA player.
He's got a lot of him equity of just he's the guy.
Exactly. He is him.
Yeah.
His pronouns and such. All right. So all right. So we got that out of the way. So let's go. Number 1 pick. Who do you think is going to go here? Because for a while, all we've heard is Jabari. Then this week, it's starting to change up a little bit. Okay, maybe Chet's in the mix. Oh, now Paolo, his odds are rising. We don't know if that's because Orlando's going to trade back to Houston spot or Orlando just likes Paolo. And the problem with this draft, and actually one of the more exciting things with this draft, I should say, but from a content standpoint, the problem is that the 2 teams picking at the top never leak. Houston leaks all the time. They leaked that they were going to take Jalen Green like a month before the draft.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The OKC and Orlando, historically speaking, have never leaked. But I feel like with the first pick, like I'm not sure. Do you think they're going to go? Who are they going to go with? Chet, Jabari, or Paolo?
I think they're going to go Jabari still.
Wow.
I wish they didn't, but I don't know. All the stuff they're saying, everything I've seen with like who's meeting where, like I
Okay.
just don't think it's Paulo. I know you already did. It should be Chet, I think, but I just
Yeah.
think it's Jabari. It
I think
just seems
it's
like
going to
that's the
come down
narrative
to
they're going with.
I think it's going to come down to Cheddar Jabari. From everything that Shams has said, everything that Jake Fisher has said, Jake Fisher nailed the last draft, even called Mo Wagner going to the Magic with their second pick. And he said that they gave him a promise that he would go in the top 10.
Nice.
So called that one, even though Orlando historically does not kind of leak these things. But people talk to agents, people talk to camps. Like, from everything we've heard, sounds like Jabari Smith is going to go number one, which is, look, I like Jabari as a prospect a lot. I think he's going to be a really good NBA player. It's legitimately insane to me that he's going to be the number one overall pick. Like,
and it sort of happened out of nowhere. I don't know if it was during workouts or anything that it sparked. I forget the timeline of it, but
it was back in March Madness. They started to talk about it.
Oh, okay, that's why. Because the March Madness merchants of, oh my God, did you see that dunk? And I'm like, yeah.
He didn't even play that well, too. Like, he had one really good game where he couldn't miss because he's a legitimately great shooter. Like, undeniably going to be, he's going to be awesome. Like, the theory that, like, Sam Vecini, has him number 2 on his board, is like, the theory on Jabari as his upside is like that his upside's actually on the defensive end more so than the offensive end. And that like he can become like this 6'10" switchable defender who's legitimately a really great defender. And then on the other side, he's just like a great play finisher, like a guy that can like, shoot off the catch, can get to his spots and shoot from wherever, kind of like a less dynamic offensive version of like Klay Thompson. But like if we're talking about like a less dynamic version, but like, all things considered with Jabari, like Jabari's shooting, like he's not going to be a creator at the next level probably.
No.
And
I think he made like, I'm going to say numbers now. He made like under 15 shots off the dribble or step back threes, 3-pointers off the dribble. There we go.
All season. And like, generally speaking, doesn't have a great handle, isn't a great athlete. So if that is the case, like the reason I bring up the Klay thing is because like I've seen people say like, well, if he's just like a taller Klay, that's like a no-brainer. And I'm like, I agree. That's an amazing player in the right circumstance for sure. Klay Thompson was in the greatest circumstance possible for him.
Yeah. And I don't think that circumstance is Orlando.
Yeah, no, right. And I'm like, they don't have like, I like Franz Wagner a lot. I like some of their young prospects. They don't have the number one surefire guy yet. And maybe Franz can become that one day, but like, I think you have to take the shot on a guy like Paolo or Chet because I think they at least have some chance at becoming that. Whereas I feel like with Jabari, he's always just going to be like a good offensive player and a good defender who like is a very good NBA player, but probably tops out as like a borderline all-star. And like that's fine.
It's also like a weird philosophy of like, it's a weird philosophy of like people looking at prospects, and I think Vajberg, our Magic friend, tweeted this of like players being bad at something. Like Jabari can't finish and he can't dribble. People are like, oh, he has upside. He can do those things. Whereas Paolo and Chet can do all of those things. Paolo is not because he can't shoot as well. Chet is just skinny. But that they're like, oh, that's a lower ceiling. Like they're already almost at their ceiling. It's like, why is that how they talk about prospects?
It like makes no sense.
Yeah.
People always tie certain, like when people always talk about upside, they're like, oh, this guy doesn't have a lot of upside because he's not super athletic. And it's like, well, like Tyrese Halliburton isn't super athletic, but I think he has a lot of upside. He's legitimately very good at shooting and passing and help defense and things that make you a good basketball player. And
I'm glad
over the course
that, like,
of his career, he will get better at that.
I'm glad that it's become more like smarter people are seeing that it's like not about how like Terrence Ross athleticism thing. Like he's not a great NBA player, but there's other players who are slower and not as like explosive, but they're way smarter. Like Halliburton's like very, very, very smart on the court, reading defenses on offense and then playing help defense and everything. So I'm glad that's becoming like more of a factor in public discourse, especially.
But it is weird because like Jabari's not really athletic, but there is an idea that he is.
He's
like,
just tall,
Yeah.
He's tall and is powerful.
Yeah, and can shoot. So, like, everyone's just like, oh, crazy upside. Like, I once again think he's going to end up having a great NBA career. I would not take him with the first pick, but let's go. I think you're right. Like, I think all things considered, he's probably going to go number 1. So let's put him up on the board, number 1. Okay. So OKC, to me, this is such a no-brainer for what OKC is going to do, but I need to get your opinion.
Yeah, it's Chet.
They're taking Chet.
It's going to be awesome too. Like, I want Chet, but like, I like the Thunder. I like their build. I hope they don't trade Dort or anything. But that build with just Shea and Chet, and the Thunder have always been that team. The Thunder, the Magic, and the Bucks have always been just like the length team, just the wingspan team. And now you're gonna have Chet and Shea. You could just stand them at like the top of the key and just stretch out, and no one's getting by except Shea's a bad defender. But
it just ends. It literally just adds to the weirdness that is happening. You know, like the OKC
which I'm all for. Yeah,
they're creating the weirdest team imaginable. And the one thing about Presti is that you can never guess what he's going to do. If I wouldn't be shocked if Chet goes number 1 and he looks at Jabari and Paulo and goes, I don't love either of these guys, and I really like Ivy. I'm just going to trade back to 4.
Yeah,
and I'm going to get Ivy at 4 and get a Kings pick, like, which worth its weight in fucking gold if you get a Kings first round pick. Like, that is the world that I could see. I could see Presti just going off the board and getting his guy at 4. If Chet is there at 2, he's taking Chet. Like, Chet is the perfect guy for what we're talking about right now. Like, I think what he's going to end up being is kind of what people project Jabari to be in terms of, like, he's going to be like an elite defender, and he's going to be very good on offense, but not great on offense. Like, I don't think
he's not going to be a number 1 offensive guy.
But they have Shea. Like, I think Shea is good enough to be a number 1 guy on offense if you put the right complementary pieces around him. And I think having Giddey and Chet is a great start.
Yeah. I mean, more numbers. I love Shea so much, and that's because I got a picture with him at Summer League. He, I think, going into last year, midway through the season, had like it was like 60% of his pull-up threes were unassisted.
Yeah.
And he made like 40 of them, like 40% of them. That's unbelievable. With the talent or the people who he has around them, that's unreal. He has him equity.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is him.
I mean,
he knows he's him.
And he has like the hardest shot profile. Also dresses cool like PJ Tucker.
Oh, yeah.
He has like, I think, the hardest shot profile in the NBA. Once you get Chet will provide some spacing there. No matter who they get here, I think they're going to provide spacing. If they get Paulo, I think Paulo is going to turn into a pretty decent shooter. I don't think he's going to be a great one from the jump.
I don't have much worry about that.
I think Jabari's obviously going to be a great shooter. I think Chet's going to be a really good shooter at the next level. I think that whoever they get there is going to provide that spacing for Shea, and it's going to take up his game to the next level because they have horrendous spacing right now. He's really had no help in terms of, like, the only other decent guys he's had are kind of in a similar mold of player to him in terms of, like, they need the ball. I see like Presti taking the shot on a guy like Chet's camp really wants to go to OKC because they think there's going to be a lot of like basically no pressure, and he can just build his game there and develop over time. And they don't want to win next year. They want to lose for one more year so they can have a shot at Victor Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson and the Thompson twins and all of the loaded draft next year. So I do think that they'll definitely go with Chet here if he's on the board. And then this is just the obvious one, right? We all know.
Oh, yeah.
We all know. Yes. What I like about the OKC pick and the Houston pick is that they're both just leaning into the teams that they're building.
Oh, yeah. It's awesome. Like the Rockets, I didn't love the Rockets before, and then my friend just was like, you need to stop like saying they're inefficient and just start enjoying them. And I was like, oh, yeah.
You need to take the ball don't stop pill.
Yep, that's basically what happened. And now I'm like, and I like Jalen, the draft. KPJ is like awesome. I'm on Şengün. Usman Garuba is the real big man there. But yeah, I had to work a lot of Rockets games, and it was just sometimes it was like horrendous, and I wanted to just die. Other times I was like, this team, like when they beat the Lakers late this season, they lost in double overtime. They played the Lakers like tooth and nail, like full strength Lakers, an awesome game. And it was like, okay, this is like cool because it's a lot of young guys who literally just won it.
Yeah, and Jalen Green was awesome that game. I remember
Yes.
that game actually.
Okay, so you remember the game I'm talking about?
Yep. Yeah, he
Might have
hit
been
that shot. Yeah, he hit that shot late in the game. Yeah. I watched that game. I'm a sicko. And I remember the exact one you're talking about. But so Paulo Banchero obviously going here third. They just continue to build on this ball don't stop team. All hoopers. They got rid of Christian Wood, who was a locker room poison, apparently.
Yeah. I don't know if he's talked about this before, but like when people were complaining about the Sixers getting rid of him, it was like very noted then he was a locker room problem.
Yeah.
And was like a dick.
He got cut from a team in China for being a dick. Like,
yeah, at UNLV, there's clips of him like he shot like 20% from three at UNLV, and there's clips of him like in like mid transition, like demanding the ball from a guy like their point guard who shot like 37%, and the point guard passing it to him, like you could tell reluctantly.
Yeah, I'm sure Luka and him are going to get along great.
Oh yeah, that'll be fantastic. That sucks. I want Luka to win.
Yeah, and same here. I like Luka a lot, but Luka's a bit of a hothead, so I think that's going to go south very quickly. But all things considered, they only gave up one pick. Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. I love the Paulo Rockets fit. I'll get a jersey.
Paulo's going to be awesome. That offensively, the Rockets are going to be a lot of fun. Defensively, they're going to be a nightmare for a little bit, but they'll be a fun young team. And like
a while.
What's that?
A little while, not a little bit. Maybe a decade or so.
I mean, look, I don't think Paulo is going to be a disastrous defender. I
don't think so either. But.
I think with his size and his smarts, he'll be able to figure it out at the next level. I personally have him number one on my board because I think that he'll be able to be capable on defense, and I think his offense is, dude, he's 6'11", he can handle the ball like a fucking point guard.
Me and our friend Jack Michael loved him, and I started watching him when he was wherever he went to high school, Odea, I think, and he would just look like he played on like an 8-foot rim because he was so obviously bigger than the kids he was playing in high school, but like it just looked like he was like barely jumping to dunk, and I'm like, wait, he's moving like a guard and like a small wing. Why is he doing this? So I have him 1-2 just because I love him. I love watching him.
I think the offensive.
Go ahead.
Didn't play for Duke.
Yeah, I wish he didn't play for Duke. If Coach K is not that coach, Paulo's probably a national champion.
Well, the thing is that they bring in, like, people are already saying, like, I mean, you could argue Chet is the better basketball player right now, but people are already like, Paulo's the best player in this class. And I'm like, and he's still 19 years old, and he has all these physical tools, and he's not the most athletic, and his defense leaves a lot to be desired, but like, everything else I feel like is going to end up translating or getting better. Like, I think the shot will get better. I think he'll grow as a playmaker and passer, and he's already pretty good at that.
Yeah.
And like, you have a potentially like 6'10", 6'11" guy who can handle the ball like a point guard. Like, to me, the way that the NBA is going, it just seems like Chet and Paulo have to be number 1 and 2 just because of their skill sets and the way that the NBA is moving, like you said earlier.
Yeah. I think if Jabari goes 1, the Thunder and the Rockets are going to be just the winners of the lottery, essentially, barring some gigantic slippage from someone. But
100%. Also, is this going to keep up the trend of the best player going third in a draft? Like, think about the last handful of drafts. Mobley could potentially be the best player from his draft. LaMelo could potentially be the best player from his draft. Tatum, like, if you go back, Luka went third. Like, and he's definitely the best player from his class. Like,
absolutely is,
like, if you go back a decade, like, there's so many guys that for some reason everyone overthinks, and they end up going third, and then they end up being the best. So
Michael Jordan was third, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Embiid was.
He was.
Third?
Embiid was third.
No.
I'm telling you, dude. Yeah. It's crazy, dude. Fucking RJ Barrett. No, parody.
Tatum. No, is Tatum second or third?
No, we already said Tatum. Tatum went third.
I'm not listening to anything you're saying.
Fuck you. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we get to our first question, which is the Sacramento Kings are on the board. Do they trade out of this pick? They're getting a lot of offers right now. And my thing is, do teams really want to trade with the Kings? Or are they just like, let's see if we can trick them because they're stupid?
I think it's a let's see if we can trick them and get a Jaden Ivey.
Right.
Because like if you're like Sixer standpoint, I don't think they would do that unless they get like a get off. If you could get off Tobias and get Jaden Ivey,
Okay. That would
that's
be
the
amazing.
we should do that or trade for Steph Curry. But yeah, I don't know a team off the top of my head, but there has to
Well,
be a
it's
team
the Wizards, the Knicks, the Pistons,
that
the
is rumored.
Pacers.
Yeah,
Like those are like the teams that are like in that 5
Pacers,
to
yeah.
11 range that like could easily move up a few spots. And then maybe the Kings fall back and they get a guy that they like later who I think we're going to draft right here.
Yeah. What if the Pacers trade for it and you have Halliburton who was traded away from the Kings?
Yep.
And then Ivy
I
that
had
could be
this
traded
thought
away
too.
from the Kings.
And
Yes,
they would
that
be
would be
such a
awesome.
fit too.
Yeah, they
Offensively,
would.
that team would be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
honestly,
Ivy definitely has that like pettiness to him too. Like Halliburton was obviously very distraught getting traded
for
from
sure.
Sacramento. Like he wanted to build there. I feel like Ivy would have that sort of pettiness, like, "Oh, you didn't want me? I'm gonna destroy you every time I play you." And those two
100%
together
chance.
doing that, yeah.
Also, Ivy apparently has, as I believe you said to me before the podcast, has not worked out for the Kings, has not spoke to the Kings,
Yeah.
has basically came out in an interview today and said, I guess it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if I got traded or
Yeah.
if I got drafted by the Kings. Like, it does not seem like that it's even an option for the Kings at 4 to get Ivy, which is crazy to me because if you think about the history of guys like Jaren Jackson Jr. a few years ago, wouldn't work out for Memphis or give him his medicals. Steph Curry famously told the Warriors, "Don't draft me." Like the history
Charles
of this
Barkley.
is like, yeah, exactly.
So the Sixers wouldn't draft him.
Exactly. The history of this is that like, hey, if you think this guy is a tier 1 talent or a tier 2 talent in a 4-player draft, which is what Woj said, that they think it's a 4-player draft, but they're also open to moving the 4th pick, then you have to draft Jaden Ivey here. I don't care about you've already tried to move heaven and earth to build around De'Aaron Fox by getting rid of Halliburton. Like if you're really doubling down on this dumb strategy of building some 10 seed around Sabonis and Fox that might not even make it as the 10 seed, it's just insane to me. You have to draft Ivy here. But they will draft Keegan Murray. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That if they don't trade it, it just sounds like it's going to be Keegan, which I like Keegan. Some of my friends are higher on him. I just don't want anyone to ever get drafted by Sacramento, and I think that would be sort of his death because he could, in the right, again, like this is true for anyone in the draft. In the right circumstances, they could be really good. Like Keegan could be really good in the right circumstances, but it's never the Kings.
Yeah. I also just I think Keegan's going to be a clearly good NBA player once again. Solid guy, can be a starter. I don't really see the upside with him. I don't really see I don't think he's going to be a shot creator at the next level. I think he'll be a decent shooter, a decent defender. He's already a little bit older. He's like 22. I don't think that his style of scoring translates to the NBA level some of the other guys that are at the top of the board here.
I agree with that.
So I think that his ceiling is going to be limited due to the fact that he was this, look, he was hyper productive. He's going to be a good NBA player. But if I have a chance to get a superstar, I'm going with Jaden Ivey, and I'm not even thinking about it. I don't even think, I think Ivey will probably be more like an all-star type player if he hits his ceiling.
Yeah,
but still a very, very good player. And there's at least a sliver of a chance that he's a superstar. And if you are the Kings, they're going to draft Keegan Murray. Apparently, the ownership loves him. They Sabonis and Fox went out to dinner with him already. Yeah. They've met with him. The only other person they've talked to at this spot is Shaedon Sharpe, I believe. They haven't worked out anyone else. I think they're going to draft Keegan Murray. And I think that – so we're going to go Keegan Murray 4th. And I think that it's going to be an extremely stupid decision. And
I think it is too.
Yeah. So,
but we're talking about the Kings, so that makes sense.
There we go. Yeah. I don't even know. What does a core of Keegan Murray, De'Aaron Fox, and Sabonis do for you?
I don't know, man. That just doesn't make sense. Well, you're forgetting about the GOAT, Davion Mitchell, in there too.
True.
He'll save them.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. No. A 6'4" point guard playing next to De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis will be great. questionable shot too. Oh man, this is gonna be wonderful. All right. So now we're at number 5, and Pistons might have just been the luckiest team in the draft here, other than maybe the Rockets. They get Jaden Ivey to fall to them at 5, and they will absolutely take Jaden Ivey if he falls to 5.
Like, I love that the stupid teams are just fucking up because it's making like the teams I want to like be like the Pistons, the Rockets, the Thunder. It's making them just sort of fall into the players I want them to take, which is awesome. Ivy and Cade and Killian.
Amazing.
And if the Pistons are in the Ayton sweepstakes too, no,
they are.
Yeah. So if you could get Ayton, Cade, Ivy, I like that.
I'd love it. I think that would be a great young 3 to build off of. I think that in the Cade Ivy backcourt, it would just be ridiculous. Lot of skill. Ivy brings athleticism and just a pop that really balances out well with like Cade's more like just, kind of smarter pick and roll savvy, also Cade's going to be a good defender. Like I would love that fit for them a lot. I think that apparently Ivy's mom played for the Detroit WNBA team at one point.
Did not know that.
And then also so the 2 teams he wants to go to are the team that's on the clock now, the Pacers and the Pistons, because of the connections that he had there.
Yeah.
Because he grew up in Indiana and he had the connection to Detroit because of his mom, apparently. So now we're up on the clock. Number 6. I kind of know who they're going to pick here. I want you to guess.
Ooh.
But I'm not saying.
Scroll down to AJ. AJ's next.
Yeah. So we have AJ. All right. Right now on the board, we have the best on the board, according to ESPN's thing, is Dyson Daniels, Shaden Sharp, Benedict Mathurin, AJ Griffin, Jalen Duren, Johnny Davis, Usman Dang. Who do you think? Malachi Branham. Who do you think they're going to go with at 6?
And you know it.
I have a hunch.
Okay.
But I was told, and then a report kind of confirmed it. So
I'm trying to think like you. If someone were to tell me, Trill Bro dude, who the Pacers were taking, is it Shaden?
It's not. Shaden is the mystery guy that everyone keeps talking about. All he has is these like EYBL tapes and these high school tapes, which are just kind of like, I'm not really sure what to make of him.
No one. Or like, I don't really know either.
He's a mystery box guy. Like, no one really knows. I don't think Indiana's going to take that much of an upside swing because they don't generally take those massive upside swings.
Because it's Indiana.
Yeah, they're gonna draft Benedict Mathurin.
Ooh, that would not have been who I was. Okay.
So they will be taking Mathurin. Someone had mentioned this, and Jake Fisher confirmed it the next day that they were interested in him. So I'm fairly certain that they are going to take Mathurin there. And we'll see. I mean, I know that I like Mathurin a lot. Like, I think that I went from being like a skeptic of his because he kind of came out of nowhere. And I was like, maybe he's just like a really athletic guy, but like he has shooting upside.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the on-ball stuff could get better. And if you add the fact in that he's like a really good athlete on top of that, like he really does have like outside of the top 4 guys in this class, I think that if you're just saying on like a true, just like makes an all-star team, I think he's got to be up there with some of the other guys that are like one of the top 2 or 3 in that category of like has potential to be an all-star at some point.
One of my very smart draft friends, not to ruin him for you, but he was like, Benedict's kind of just Josh Jackson. And now I've heard some people. Yeah. Every time I watch him, I can't unsee it. And I'm like, damn it. So I liked him. He's fun.
I was kind of in the same boat when I watched him before, but I didn't realize how the shooting is good and the shooting will get better in theory. And like, he can be a little bit of a dynamic shooter too. So like, if any of that stuff translates, I think at worst, you're going to get like a starter level player. And I think at best, like possibly all-star upside, but we'll see.
Okay.
I like him a lot. He's grown on me over time. I've kind of had the opposite effect that you did.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Maybe I'm totally off on that. But okay, so now we're up at pick 7, the Blazers. Are they going to keep this pick? I don't think they will. I
feel like you're more tuned into the Blazers than me. I have not heard if they were going to trade it or not, but I also don't know who the hell they would take with this.
So I think they're going to trade the pick. I don't know who they're going to trade it to, but let's just say they trade the pick to.
Was that one of the ones the Thunder were interested in? It was like Dort and 12. Who they had?
So yeah,
Dort and 12 for
Dort and 12 was the rumor that they would. So they move up to. The Thunder move up from 12. They give up Lou Dort in the process because right now they have Trey Mann, they have Josh Giddey, they have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If they moved up, they could potentially get Shaedon Sharpe here. So my prediction is I think the Blazers do trade out. I think they get Dort and 12. This is a rumor that was thrown out there. Maybe the Thunder don't want to do this, but like my prediction is they move up, they get Dort and 12, and then they flip 12 to the Pistons for Jeremy Grant.
Interesting.
So then they get Dort and Grant out of the 7th pick.
2 guys in my header. I don't know how I feel about that. And they have Keon Johnson and Greg Brown.
They've been connected
more
to
TR guys, yeah.
They've been connected to Jeremy Grant before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
So I think that if Jeremy Grant is going anywhere this offseason, if it's not, it's going to be John Collins or Jeremy Grant going to the Blazers, if not both of them somehow. So I do think that I'm just going to take Shaedon Sharpe here because I think that's what's going to happen.
Yep.
There's also a possibility that the Hawks could try to trade John Collins for this pick and take Dyson Daniels, who they apparently really like. But I'm just going to go with, I can't trade picks on here, but I'm just going to go with what I think is going to happen there.
Yeah.
And
we'll remember.
Okay. Right. So now we are at the New Orleans Pelicans. The New Orleans Pelicans are on the clock at number 8.
I haven't seen anything with them because I'm not.
I haven't seen anything either, Twitter, to be honest.
So, all right, so let's put on our tinfoil hats then.
Okay, so
I feel like
what do they need? Because right now they have their core is Brandon Ingram, maybe Zion Williamson if he ever plays basketball again. CJ McCollum, Valanciunas, Herb
Jones.
Those are like the 5 guys that they're building around right now. And I think that they're going to keep Larry Nance, and I think that they're going to keep Trey Murphy because I think they like Trey Murphy a lot. But other than that, I don't know who's going to be on this roster. Kira Lewis tore his ACL. Who knows what's going on with him? Yeah. They'll probably try to move on from Devontae Graham now that they have CJ McCollum.
Mm-hmm.
So
because he's Devontae Graham.
Yeah, right, exactly. So who do you see here out of this group that you could say, all right, they would be a great fit on the Pelicans I think they need defense because I think everyone they have now is an offensive guy except for Herb Jones.
Yeah. I would like AJ Griffin here, I think.
Okay.
You could also, I just thought of this too. You could also get the, hey, Zion, we got the Duke Brotherhood here. Now you have to stay with him and Ingram.
Yeah, I mean, just bringing in another Duke guy. Let's just run in. So do you think there's any chance that they just take Sohan? They just go after Jeremy Sohan?
Interesting.
I think there is a chance that they just go, we need more defense. And Sohan, of all the guys up here, it's like Dyson Daniels, Jalen Duren. If you're going defense, it's Sohan, Duren, or Dyson Daniels.
Yeah, and I don't think they'll take Jalen just because they have Valanciunas.
And AJ Griffin is more, for now at least, is way more offensively focused.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that Dyson Daniels gets past this spot. I think it's going to be
someone to explain Dyson Daniels to me because I didn't watch a ton of his stuff.
And neither did I. I can't really speak too much on him, but I know a lot of people were very high on him. Pick and roll ball handler, 6'6", really good defender. The only questionable thing is the shot, but a lot of people think it's going to come around.
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of the pitch on him. So,
Jonah Bolden's agent also represents him.
So, well, there you go.
Yeah. Who unfollowed me on Twitter because I was posting pro-Palestine stuff.
Oh, man. Well, Jonah Bolden's agent or Jonah Bolden?
Jonah Bolden's agent. I don't know if Jonah still follows me. I don't think he uses Twitter anymore.
So funny. That's absolutely hysterical. All right, so we have Dyson. All right, so Dyson Daniels.
Dyson, yeah. Jonah still follows me. I just checked.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Glad. I mean, just don't post anti-crypto stuff, and he'll
oh my god, yeah.
Stay following you. All right, so let's draft Dyson Daniels.
Dyson,
here, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think that he's not going to get past 8. Maybe the Pelicans trade out. I think that AJ Griffin is falling right now from everything that I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like he's going to fall out of the top 10 for whatever reason. I think he's a pretty good prospect. I don't really get it.
Very good. Yeah.
So now we are at the.
I have a good hunch with one here.
Spurs. All right. What is your hunch?
I think it's Jalen Duren.
Okay. Why would they like? So talk a little bit. You love Duren. So talk a little bit why you love Duren, because I think he's very good. I think he's like solid. But like, what's like the appeal of Jalen Duren? Like, what's the upside there?
He's just sort of that. Well, he's a Philly guy, first of all, which is why I have to support him.
Is he?
Yeah, he's Roman Catholic, I believe.
How did I not know this?
I didn't know. I was sort of low on him. Not low, but like I was on him. And then one of my friends was like, oh, he's a Philly guy. I'm like, all right, he's the number one.
Oh, there we go. But, yeah, you went to Roman Catholic. Holy shit.
Yeah. He is just sort of like a monster of sorts. I don't like using that word with prospects, but like he just has the violent physicality and like the violent like explosiveness that like the Spurs, I feel like of all people, could harness pretty well. He's a great lot. Like the catch radius is insane. Like he has the longest fucking arms I've ever seen. Really good defender. Obviously, he's really strong. There's the viral clip of him just like destroying Chet in the post, just backing Chet down.
Yeah.
And Chet, who is skinny but not a bad defender at all. I just really like Jalen. He's just seems like he has that kind of no numbers here. He has that kind of it factor that I feel like he would kind of impose his will on people that I feel like the Spurs would kind of mold really well.
So I've seen Robert Williams comps get thrown around out there. I've seen kind of like people might think that he has a little bit more offensive juice than Robert Williams.
Mm-hmm.
If he is that mold of player, incredibly useful in the modern NBA. Like I think that it's a surefire top 10 pick if he becomes what we think he can become there. So yeah, with 9, I would either have went with I picked Duren there because I like that pick for them. Mm-hmm. But I would have went with I think they're either going to go with like a Duren type or a Jeremy Sohan. Like I think Sohan makes a lot of sense. They are kind of defensive minded. Big wing. They love to mold these guys who can't shoot into players. And then the other guy that I think if they just went completely off the board and they just said, hey, we're going to do what we did with Josh Primo last year. Where we don't care about consensus. All we care about is getting the guy that we want. Which is
horrible process on draft night. Just trade down.
Exactly. The Suns did this. The Spurs do this.
Yeah.
So if they do, this is Magic Vagberg, or now Jesp Vagberg, had DM'd me that he thinks that they're going to go with Jalen Williams at number 9.
Which one?
Come on, the one that
I know.
Jalen with an E, who
I just wanted to say it.
The guy who's been rising up draft boards, who killed it at the combine. He's like, Primo killed it at the combine last year. They always get someone who kills it at the combine. He's been rising. You've been hearing he's going to go in the lottery. Like,
which feels like such an unspurs thing to do, of like combine merchant.
Right, but like, they love him. Yeah. So we'll see. I tend to think that at that 9th pick, they're either going to go. I think they're going to go with like a Duren or a Sohan, like a defensive-minded guy that has some decent upside. Okay, so number 10, I have a hunch who's going to go here too.
I have a hunch just because like Wizards. I think it's Johnny Davis.
Yes. No, you're 100% spot on. So. Johnny Davis, they've already said they're interested in Ivy. I think the 3 guys that they got connected to are Ivy, Dyson Daniels, and Johnny Davis. They liked all three of those guys. And if they get to 10, and also they want to trade for Malcolm Brogdon, apparently, they just really want a second guard to put with Bradley Beal. I think Johnny Davis will be a nice complementary guard. I'm not as high as him on some people as some people are. I think that if the shooting is like as good as it looked in some of these warm-up clips, then he's going to be a very good, useful player at the next level. I think that some people have him as high as like 7 on their board. I would have him a little bit lower. I'd probably have him back end of the lottery. But
I forget where I have him exactly. I have him, back end of the lottery.
Yeah, he's going to be good. He's fine. He's a fine pick at number 10. Like, he's solid.
It's a Wizards pick.
It's a Wizards pick, exactly. Yeah. It's a safe pick. Okay, so now we are at number 11. The New York Knicks are on the clock. We have AJ Griffin on the board. We have Ousmane Deng. We have Malachi Branham. We have Mark Williams. We have Jeremy Sohan, Ochai Agbaji. We have Tari Eason. Who do you think that they go with here? They did work out Tari, apparently.
Yeah, it did. I don't know. I kind of like... I can see them taking AJ.
I think they're going to take AJ. It sounds like AJ is going to fall. They said that he might fall out of the lottery, but I think the Knicks really want him.
Yeah. He also just seems like a guy they could market. He's like, he's the Duke shooter. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. What's his agent? Let's see. Who's his agent? Are we going to do the CIA thing? CIA thing. Yeah. He's rep by the CIA. Daryl Morey's going to love him. He's just some random thing. It's not CAA. I don't know who the CAA guys are, but if they do draft another CAA guy or a Kentucky guy, like they reach on TyTy or something, that would be absolutely hysterical if they just continue to do that. All right, so
Thunder.
I feel like there's a pretty obvious one here, right?
Oh, is it Jeremy?
I think so.
Yeah.
Do you think? Do you think they're going to go with Sohan?
Yeah, I can see that. It's good. Are we drafting under the assumption that trade happened and they gave up Dort?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, then I think Sohan for sure.
Okay. Oh, would they? Yeah. Oh no, they moved up and they got Shaedon Sharpe. So this is the Pistons.
This is the Blazers or
the Pistons. They traded it for Jeremy Grant. Remember? Okay, so now we got to go. Pistons get the 12th pick. I forgot about that part. Shit. Thank you for reminding me. So we have the Pistons who got Jaden Ivey earlier. They have Cade Cunningham. They have Sadiq Bey, and that's kind of it. I mean, they have some other guys, but like, I'm not crazy about any of their.
I have not been able to say this in a public forum yet. Fuck Luka Garza. I hate him.
Okay.
Yeah,
feeling
there you
pretty
go.
strongly about the second round pick who never ever plays. And
he does, and it drives me fucking insane.
Does he play?
He did a little bit. It's also because my friends love him because I hate him.
They were tanking too, to be fair.
Yeah, that's fair. But I fucking hate that dude.
All right, so 12th pick. Who do you think the Pistons would go with here? They have their backcourt set for sure.
Yeah. Have they? Who's their starting?
Isaiah Stewart. Maybe they get Ayton, but that's not a guarantee. You think they could go with like a Mark Williams or?
I feel like they're going to take Malachi Branham just because it makes no sense.
But they already if they already have Ivy and Cade.
That's why it doesn't make any sense. Like the Pistons have to do one stupid thing. And if they're going to luck into Ivy, then it's going to be even stupider.
Well, they've done a pretty good job in the draft the past few years. Obviously they had the number 1 pick last year, so Cade was easy. But the year before, Sadiq Bey. I mean, Isaiah Stewart, all things considered, is like a rotation level big. Like,
yeah, he's the one that a lot of people were like, I'd quit working in the draft if I had to scout him because he in college couldn't jump, couldn't really do anything, and then at the Pistons he could immediately jump, and it was just sort of this like animal.
Yeah, kind of weird. Like he's actually like a pretty good player.
Yeah.
But
so maybe I'm giving the Pistons too much crap. Maybe they will be smart. And if they're smart...
I like Troy Weaver. I think he's a decent GM. Like, I think he does some smart things.
Is this going to be Jeremy, you think?
Yeah, let's go with Jeremy Sohan.
You get rid of Jeremy Grant to get Jeremy Sohan.
You get another Jeremy in. And even if the Thunder keep this pick, I think they're going to take Sohan. So either way, I think that the way that the board shakes out here is fine. And then
I feel like, because Sohan's like kind of a psycho too, of like he will buy into any culture. So I feel
100%.
like the Pistons or the Thunder would be a great spot for him.
Absolutely. All right, so we have the Charlotte Hornets are on the clock. We have 2 more picks here. We're only picking the lottery, so we got 13 and 14. Who do you think that? I think that this is a pretty obvious one, right? They need.
I don't know. They need a big.
They need a big. There's one big on the board. He's a defensive big, rim protector,
and a good lob catcher.
Yeah, Rob. I think they're going to take. I think they'll take Mark Williams here.
Yeah, they do have Kai Jones in the G League, who I love.
But yeah, if we want to have non-mixtape highlight players, then we can get Mark Williams.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, Cleveland is on the board at 14. All right, keep in mind, Charlotte has 2 picks. They have 13 and 15. I believe they got 15 for Devontae Graham in a sign-and trade somehow, which is wild to me, from the New Orleans Pelicans. Yeah, amazing fleecing there. But so now we have the Cleveland Cavaliers on the clock. Usman Dang is the best one on the board right now in terms of ranking. I don't know if they'll. I think they like him. Malachi Branham's also on the board. Ochai Agbaji, Tari Eason. Out of this group, I feel like the Ohio State guy. I feel like they got to go with Malachi Branham, right?
You think so?
I
was going to say I think Tari makes the most sense.
Yeah,
for me, sure. But yeah.
For what they need, Tari Eason should be the pick here. Like for just to have like a defensive wing who the only issue with them is that they need shooting. Like
it's true.
They like especially if they move on from Kevin Love, it's like Darius Garland and a bunch of non-shooters basically. Like Laurie Marketed
slander.
Yeah. Okay. So exactly my point.
Fire. This is all I'm holding this in for too long.
So.
Yeah, I guess Malik. How old is Malachi? A little older, or is he young? I forget.
No, he's young. He's 19. He's basically what you want Karis LeVert to be, but Karis LeVert isn't. I think Malachi Branham's going to be really good. Okay. I like him a lot. I'm high on Malachi Branham. I think I would have him as a top 10 prospect in this draft.
Lock it in then.
Yeah,
Cavs get Malachi.
Let's go Malachi Branham, and then we'll do one extra bonus pick. Oh, we only did shit. But we'll do a bonus pick. Do we with Charlotte in the 15th pick, do we just take Tari there and just say
for fun? Yeah.
Let's just take Tari because that would be a lot of fun. Tari's being slept on. I have him as a top 10 guy. But the final results, we have Jabari Smith 1, Chet Holmgren 2, Paolo Banchero 3, Keegan Murray 4, Jaden Ivey 5, Benedict Maturin 6, Shaden Sharp 7, Dyson Daniels 8, Jalen Duren 9, Johnny Davis 10, AJ Griffin, Jeremy Shohan, Mark Williams, and Malachi Branham. So the only guys that I think that would probably go in the lottery that we didn't draft, that maybe one of these guys falls out, is Usman Dang, who a lot of people, he seems to be flying up draft boards right now. So it seems like he could be the guy that ends up going higher than expected. He started really shitty in his wherever he played. I can't remember. He played in New Zealand or Australia or something.
The Breakers.
Yes. Yeah. And he started really shitty and he turned it around and got better. So he's another one of these high upside foreign prospects that is going to be out there this year. So I just want to say, let's just run through some guys for the Sixers that I have not really discussed on the pod yet, which are, this is how we're going to wrap it up. We have TyTy Washington, Kennedy Chandler, Dalen Terry, Kendall Brown, and David Roddy. So they brought in Kendall Brown for a workout. They also brought in Jaden Hardy, who it seems like they've been connected to a lot, and I would like that pick.
Yeah.
Fits the Maury bill. He's a hooper. He was a high prospect like Bassey and Maxey and Springer, like kind of in that mold, like fell down boards, whatever. Could be a guy that has some upside and Maury likes at the end of the first. I wouldn't be shocked. But we just need players, so I'm not really worried too much about, like, we need a wing. Like, if there are no good wings on the board, don't take a wing. But we have TyTy Washington. So do you know much about TyTy?
I like TyTy just because he's a fun name, too. Because you could go TyTy and Tyrese and you could go triple tie.
Yeah, and they're both Kentucky guys.
Both Kentucky, the Brotherhood, the Blue Bloods. He's a good pick and roll operator. He just seems to kind of get it in terms of basketball. He's not going to like do anything, at least at this point, do anything like insane. Like Maxey sort of has the floater game and just the unbelievable flexibility in the air. TyTy is just more of just like a smart, solid player, from what I know.
Yep.
I'd take him if he fell.
Yeah, I think he's in my top tier now, along with if Tari Eason, it's Tari Eason, Jalen Williams, Jaden Hardy, and TyTy Washington are my 4. Oh, and EJ Liddell, 5 are the 5 guys that if they're there at 23, just take them, figure out the rest later. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a severe drop off. Dalen Terry is in my second tier of guys that I feel like if Dalen Terry gets drafted by the Spurs or the Grizzlies, he's going to have a great career and everyone's going to go, why didn't we draft that guy? Because they said in workouts, the biggest question about Dalen Terry, like he's a dog, he's a hustler, he's a good passer, he hustles for rebounds, he's a pretty good defender. He's kind of athletic, he's not super athletic. He is a guy that has been shooting up draft boards and everyone seems he's kind of like a darling that has kind of come out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he is someone that concerns me because he only averaged like 8 points a game in college. He was primarily a role player. And ultimately, I worry about the offensive game translating. But in workouts, apparently, he has shot the ball really well, and they're not worried about his thing. And if the shot's real, then everything falls into place for his game. He's a really good passer, good defender, good at all of the things that you want except for shooting. And the Sixers just have a history of never developing these guys.
Oh yeah,
which is why
never,
I'm
ever.
just like I'm almost out on Dalen Terry because of this.
Yeah, like you have Isaiah Joe, who's good. Like he's legitimately good. And that was an insane pick. They leaked it and then got him there, and they just haven't given him any favors. Paul Reed's good. Jaden Springer's really good. And he's just not going to succeed with the Sixers. I think it was you who said Maxey developed himself.
He did, yeah.
It just wasn't this. It was him and Chris Johnson just did it themselves. Yeah. So I feel like they probably shouldn't take him either for both sides, just because they're not going to do him any favors and he's going to rot, which should never happen to a young player.
Exactly. And that's how I feel about Kendall Brown too, who like, I actually think Kendall Brown would be a good wing, like on one of those teams that develops guys. The one thing I will say that I've heard about Dalen Terry is that he is like a crazy competitor worker. So maybe he is the guy that is like Maxey, where he just develops himself and like
him and Maxey will just like never leave the gym together.
There you go. They'll just like fucking move in. They'll like have a fucking bunk bed up in the locker room. It'll be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Doc will yell at them for working out and be like, "Oh, why are you working out so much?"
That was your Doc impression.
He's a cranky old man.
Yeah, you need to get the raspy voice down. Yeah, it sucks because the Sixers scouting team seems to have a pretty good sense of what they're doing, and the development team, I think that's a separate thing, and the coaching staffs just aren't on the same page.
No, they're just like,
sucks.
we're not going to invest literally anything in these players. We have no plans for them. We're just kind of going to, bring in talent and not use them at all. So I will say about like Kendall Brown and Dalen Terry, I'd love them for other teams. I don't like them for the Sixers.
Yeah.
But if they drafted them, I'd talk myself into them because that's what I always do.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we did with like Springer. It was so obvious he wasn't going to play at all this year.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was like, he's good. Like
exactly.
Like he was like a tier. He was like 7th or 6th, I think, on my board last year. Like it was Maxey 2.0, but they just refused to play him.
Yeah, and we'll see if he can crack the rotation next year. The jumper needs to get better. If the jumper's good next year, he'll be in the rotation, and I don't have to worry about him. But my whole thing is, like, if you draft Kendall Brown, Springer has to play next year. You can't keep wasting spots on projects. Like, you can't keep wasting on guys that you're never going to develop like other teams just.
Yeah, and that's sort of the point of, like being later in the lottery, or not in the lottery, being later in the first round, like you should be picking these more like play ready guys.
Right.
Like Maxey fell to you, you have to take Maxey. Springer fell to you, I think you sort of have to take Springer. But here, if you don't like any of the kind of project guys, trade back, trade the pick, take a play now player, So you can just sort of plug and play instead of, having Doc just destroy these kids.
Yeah, exactly. I like, so of all these guys, I like my two favorite out of this group are TyTy, who, like you said, like I saw some mid-range and floater numbers on this guy, especially before he got hurt. He was like 59% from 8 to 16 feet. His floater game, he was shooting 57% on floaters at one point this season. He has ridiculous touch. I think he's just going to be a really good complementary guard. Like he would be a great third guard to have on this team. And he's also a little bit older. He was a freshman, one and done, but he's already 20. At some point in his rookie season, he's going to turn 21. So like if Doc is willing to play someone that's a little bit older, like Sprayer was like literally turned 19, like around the time of the draft.
Second or third youngest in the draft behind Primo and Giddey.
Yeah. So that's like Kendall Brown's super young. Dalen Terry's a little bit older. He's like 20, but I think that you got to pick like one of those like EJ Liddell, one of those guys that you could just play pretty much right away. That's like 22, and Doc might actually play them because they're a little bit older.
Yeah.
But the other two guys that I just want to touch on real quick that were on this list are Kennedy Chandler. Do you know much about Kennedy Chandler? Because
I don't, unfortunately. Like I know he's good. I know he'd be solid.
Yeah. So Kennedy Chandler is another guy, one and done, was a high recruit. It feels like all of the guards in this class that were like TyTy was projected to be a lottery pick. Kennedy Chandler was projected to be a lottery pick. Jaden Hardy, they've all kind of fell into this 20s range. So these are kind of more like, do you believe in the pedigree? Do you believe in like what they were before last year?
Which is also what the Maxi philosophy
of course. Yeah, exactly.
In high school had all the clips there, but just sort of stunk at Kentucky. Not stunk, but like underperformed at Kentucky.
Kennedy Chandler kind of reminds me, he's nothing like this player. They're very different stylistically, but it kind of reminds me of Sharif Cooper from last year, where like if he was 3 inches taller, this guy is like legitimately really good. But because of the fact that he is like 6 foot, he's 6 foot nothing. And like in the modern NBA, and a lot of people have expressed these concerns, like he's a good defender, apparently. I haven't watched any of the defense because I don't watch defensive highlights unless they're defensive guys.
Yeah.
am I going to watch what am I going to go watch fucking Malachi Branham's defense? Like he'll be fine. He'll figure it out.
I don't blame you.
So
that's when I listen to my smarter friends.
Yeah, exactly. So he's apparently a very good pick and roll operator, apparently very good, smart player, can shoot off the dribble. He has everything to play in the NBA, but he's 6 foot. So like his ceiling is probably backup point guard, maybe starting point guard in the right situation for him. Just in the modern NBA, it's really hard to do that, be 6 foot and do whatever. But like he is clearly a very good, talented player. And if it was a little bit bigger, would be going much higher than he currently is. And then the last guy I want to talk about is someone that I genuinely just believe. I get shit. Draft Twitter comes at me for this when I say this. I just think David Roddy's an NBA player. Like, have you watched David Roddy?
I have, yeah. He's I like him. I don't know if he's going to be great. He also doesn't fit my mold of fat phobia for the Sixers. Because
it's true. He is thick. He's a thick boy. Yeah, he's a plumper for sure. He's kind of in a PJ Tucker, but like he's like a short, stout, but like I said, he looks like a linebacker when he's playing, but he apparently did play football at one point. But I just think like the more I watch the guy, the more I'm just like, he does all of the role player things that you want a guy to do. He's a really smart passer, keeps the ball moving. He fights for rebounds. He does role player things, but he was also a star in college. So like he has like a little bit of explosiveness off the dribble for someone his size. He's actually like, the numbers don't show it because his free throw numbers aren't great.
Fuck the numbers.
But his 3-point shooting numbers are really good. And like, if you watch him, like he makes tough shots. Like I just feel like David Roddy is like going to be an NBA player and he might get drafted in the 30s. But like if the Sixers move back, he's definitely a target, I will say. He's the one guy that, like, of the second round picks that I'm just like, I buy the talent. And, like, the only thing that's going to hold him back is, like, he might just not. I mean, like, he's just such a weird kind of player that he might just not, like, teams might not buy into him and develop him because of the way that he looks. Like, he doesn't like someone said, like, with
body image shaming.
Exactly. Like, if it's someone said on the mock draft thing we did, like, if you gave Kenneth Lofton Jr. someone else's body in the draft, you would be like, oh, he's a lottery pick. Like, if you just gave David Roddy Kendall Brown's or Marjan Beauchamp or some of the wings that are going in this range, if you just said that was them, David Roddy would be a top 20 pick, surefire, 100% chance.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. No more shaming.
Oh, I'm pro body shaming.
No.
That's my stance. I spent a year in hiding just to come out as pro body shaming.
All right. So no, you're going to get canceled after this podcast, but only for the Sixers, you need to say. You need to say that.
No. Okay, okay.
Generally speaking, we're not
great. Now we're going to get clipped. I'm going to get clipped.
I am pro fat phobia. Okay. Anyway, we are not pro fat phobia on the You Know Ball podcast, folks. So I need you to guess who they're going to draft at 23.
I think it's Jaden Hardy.
Okay. Honestly, I think it's Jaden Hardy too. I think that he's going to fall. I think that if a team that is in the late lottery to mid-teens doesn't take a shot on Jaden Hardy's upside, I think Morey's going to say he's just too good to pass on. Like, he's like, like, he's a bucket and a problem, and there's a market inefficiency for buckets and problems in the NBA.
Yeah,
and
they're getting over. Maybe that's what Morey's doing. Maybe Morey thinks the inefficiency is fat guys, and he's trying to do it, but it's not working yet.
Slow, unathletic big dudes. That's what we need.
Yeah.
We need more.
Nobody want them.
We need
such great deals.
We need George Niang. We need Jake LaRavia at the end of the first. No, Jake LaRavia is actually not. He's actually kind of athletic. He just he looks like he's unathletic because he's a frumpy white dude. But okay, so draft is on Thursday. Kevin, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it.
Of course, thank you for having me back.
My cat is getting mad at me because I have not fed him yet. But he is here. What's up, Dewey? But thanks for having me, bud. You can follow Kevin at the Kevin Rice on Twitter. You can follow him for his TKR guys every year during the draft. By the way, you didn't even say your TKR guys. You got to say who your 4 TKR guys are this year.
Yeah, it's a short list this year. Paula, just because I love him and have loved him. JD Davison from Alabama, because he has gigantic hair, is like 6 feet tall, can jump out of the gym, and almost did the Aaron Gordon under the legs dunk contest dunk in a game a bunch of times. He hasn't hit it yet, but he will. Quentin Jackson on A&M, just because I saw 2 plays in the SEC tournament and was like, this guy's amazing. I love him. And he can score. And Jalen Duran, because Philly guy.
Love it. Absolutely love it. All right, bud. Peace.
Bye, Trill.